Digital design, megatrend design thinking is the topic of Jens Bothmer. He founded his own consulting agency, Autentity, just recently. He's not even yet online. And he has a 14 years of experience as CEO of the digital agency Iconstorm. And they work for, what was it? I think it was Sky, and the other big name was Deutsche Telekom.
Yeah.
So he led the team that is thinking about how to seduce you to play around and become a good customer of Deutsche Telekom through their website. He is in the team that thinks about how do we design Sky, that is the German version of Netflix, to appeal to the viewers so that they just stick to it and want to watch what Sky offers and want to watch even more and totally dive into it. That's a matter of design, and that's a matter of constantly discovering and researching the habits of your consumer. This is the world Jens Bothmer lives in, and he's going to share his insights with us right now. Please welcome Jens Bothmer.
Okay. Am I on? Okay, thanks. So we are living in a world of VUCA. This is an expression which is from the American military, and it's describing with the letters volatility. And if you just had a look in the last week's stock exchange, the numbers are going up and down, and that's how our business will like that. Uncertainty, the politics, they are unsure and they are not really able to foresee what is going to happen with all the countries, with Syria, with Turkey, with Greece. And there is the enormous demand on information we are receiving, and there are these rules of TTIP, of the European Union, and the amount of information is just growing. It's the complexity. And the last letter of the VUCA world is ambiguity. That means in the intercultural context, the meanings of the words, they differ now. So they are not clear for us because people in other cultures have a different meaning for the same word over here. So my name is Jens Bothmer. I'm an innovation consultant. I'm based in Frankfurt, and my focus is laying on innovation processes, business modeling, and brand positioning. Today I'd like to present you the design thinking method, or it's more or less an approach, and using this new innovation methods to generate better business ideas. So let's dive into the word cloud. I just saw it's very popular here on the show, on the CeBIT. And who's familiar with design thinking of you? Who have? Okay, great. So who's familiar with these expressions over there, which are on the word cloud? Okay. So disruption, digital transformation, these are the big buzzwords of the CeBIT. And so let's dive into this theme. Design thinking, it's a method, it's an approach, and all the big magazines from the United States, they are covering stories and articles about design thinking, from Fast Company to Newsweek to the Time magazine. And Google Trends, if you have a look at Google Trends, it's all started in the United States. It's 2005, and the growth rate of information about design thinking is immense. And as usual in Germany, we're a little bit late. You know it from our Mrs. Merkel, our Chancellor. She's always waiting to make the best decision. It started in 2009, but the growth rate, like in America, it's the same rate if people are asking for design thinking. And recently, even the Manager magazine in Germany, they covered a story about design thinking in the February issue. Perhaps you got the possibility to get an edition of it. So, and the Harvard Business Review from September had 7 stories about design thinking. If we had a look, or if you have a look at Google, there are 142 million search results, and you can buy 575 books at Amazon. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the history of design thinking. It all began in the 1960s. There was the UK Design Council, and they made some studies about the designing process. And so they invented this scheme of define, design, deliver. And then in 1991, it was the first time ever that design thinking was published on a symposia by Terry Winograd, Larry Leifer, and David Kelly, who are the founders of, for instance, IDEO and the method. In 1995, the famous zoo of Hanover here used the principles of design thinking to generate an awesome experience with wild animals here. And so if you have time left after CeBIT, it's a recommendation for me to go over there and to see this awesome landscape with the wild animals. In 2005, Hasso Plattner, the former CEO and founder of SAP, he donated 35 million to Stanford, and he founded the design school at Stanford. And 2 years later, he founded the HPI, the Hasso Plattner Institute, which is now into the research of design thinking here in Germany and is located in Potsdam. And in 2015, they did this study about design thinking and the impact of design thinking of companies who are doing profits. So this is one result of this study. They asked 111 decision makers who are already using design thinking, and the main results were that design thinking is improving the working culture in companies, as we just heard from Mrs. Welper in the talk before. And design thinking makes our innovation more efficient. That's what they state in this study. When I prepared this presentation, I found this chart, and this is really interesting because the customer and the word cloud we just saw over here, it's the second big word. It's about the customer, and 124 customers, or not customers, sorry, CEOs in Europe, when they were asked where they like to invest, they all stated that they like to invest in customer centricity, in the human-centered approach, and in the customer experience. So this was a surprise for me, and that's exactly what design thinking is made for. And there's a last chart which I'd like to show you here. It's from General Electric from 2011. And they stated, like 5 years before, and they said that the companies in the future and how they innovate in the 21st century will be totally different as they did this in the past. And more than ever, SMEs, like small, medium enterprises and individuals, got the chance to generate or to found new companies, and they can be as innovative as the big group. And this is to be shown here on the charts over there. These companies are already using design thinking in their business process, like SAP. Last week, I had a speech in the Silver Tower at the Deutsche Bahn Innovation Lab over there, and there was one of the persons from the App House, which is based in Heidelberg, and we had a nice talk. In Heidelberg, there are about 80 people who just look after innovation in the SAP concern, and they'd like to try to transform the whole group with this new design thinking method. But besides all these big brands we see here on the charts, there is one brand which is exceptional, and this is Airbnb. And because all the companies, as we heard, as we just heard, they're older than 20, 30, or even 40 years who are on this chart, except of Airbnb. And Airbnb is exactly one of these small companies, these SMEs, which you now compare, for instance, with the Hilton Group. The Hilton Group is 88 years old. Airbnb is 9 years old. And the Hilton Group got 610,000 rooms, and Airbnb provides 650,000 rooms worldwide. The Hilton Group got 88 countries under contract. Airbnb provides 192 rooms, countries all over the world, and is providing rooms. Me, myself, I'm providing a room for Airbnb myself, and it's amazing how the whole system is working. But let's dive deeper into design thinking. If we have a classical innovation process with after the stage gate principle, you usually generating insights with the customers, then you're defining the problem, so what job has to be done for the customer, then you're providing a solution, and if your data are satisfying, then you're going into the business modeling, and if all your lights are, if you have a green light, then you scale it. And just to put design thinking into a lane of these new innovation methods, it's here and it's covering the insight, the problem solving, and the solution. And it delivers the argumentation for business modeling. Besides the other approach, I'm sure you're familiar with these agile techniques like Scrum or Lean Startup or the business model canvas from Alex Osterwalder, and as well the brand positioning like the brand steering wheel. So I'd like to give you a definition. So what is design thinking? It's an innovation method. It's more or less a framework, an approach, a processing which leads to problem solving and of development of new ideas. And the aim is to develop solutions which are convincing out of the customer's perspective. And the main principles are team, multidisciplinary, and process. That means design thinking is focusing on all departments in your company, like the customer care, the sales department, product development, the IT department. And it's very important that you put all your knowledge guys from these departments into this process. But the main thinking, or the main focus of design thinking, it's what we already heard like in the talk before. It's customer centricity. It's human-centered. It's all about the customers, because with design thinking, you can generate new demands or even satisfy new demands. And if you're doing business, it's all about benefits, benefits, benefits. If the customer got a benefit, he will buy your product compared to the competitors. So we can do this with an example, or we can just have a look on this example with a toothbrush. In the old-fashioned way, your boss would come to you and said, okay, well, the revenues are down, we innovate the toothbrush. But it's already like an MVP, a minimal viable product. So the design thinking approach would be to look at the real problem. Is it the problem or is it something else? And the new approach would be innovate dental care. Perhaps there are better and more opportunities instead of using innovating the toothbrush. So here you find the process of design thinking. There are different processes outside. The University of St. Gallen got a 5-step process. The University of Saarbrücken also, and I prefer the process of Stanford or the HPI. And there are 6 steps. The first one is understand your customers, observe him, make up your mind and define your point of view. And that's the point in the design thinking process where the magic is happening. So where the flow of the process is really growing. It's the ideation phase. And after that, do a prototype, give this prototype to the customer, do a testing, and with all the results, you're going back in the ideation process and do a better prototype and test it again. So it's an iterative approach which you can do with design thinking, and there are applying some conditions. So if you're providing a solution, or if you're generating an idea or a solution with design thinking, the condition is that it must be feasible, it must be desirable by the customer, and it must fulfill these 3 lenses: the human-centered approach, the technology approach, and the business approach. And there are other rules, as we just heard from Dr. Walpe in the talk before. These are main rules in the process. We heard from her that you should fail in your process to generate new ideas and to get the chance to build on other ideas. You should stay focused on a topic. You should avoid criticism and be visual, because we have 2 kinds or 2 parts in our brain. The one is rational and the one is emotional. And if you're sketching or building up your ideas and present it to others, other people can build on these ideas. So encourage wild ideas so people can build up on these. Go for quantities, think user-centric. Then we have the feasibility, viability, and desirability, which I just mentioned, and leave titles at the doors. these are general rules which you would apply for the design thinking process. And if we have a look at the digital transformation, and it's like a big buzzword over here at CeBIT, then you have to make up your mind, and you have to decide how you would like to innovate your products, for instance. So we have on the one side the traditional car makers. We have Uber, this big and company who just entered all the markets worldwide, and we have the new market, the Google car. And if you innovate your product, you have to make the decision if you want to renovate your product or if you want to innovate a totally new business model. Because in renovating the product is that what, for instance, the car manufacturers are doing. So what they do is, if they reaching the phase of maturity in the life cycle management, they're just inventing a new feature or a new abbreviation, which we can see here. So an anti-braking system, an ESP, or name it. I can't count all these abbreviations which are now on the back of a car. Or if you want to innovate a totally new business model, as we see with Uber or Airbnb, which will be disruptive in the future. And I'm sure that on the chart with the brands, in future there will be more companies like Airbnb. There won't be, well, there are not only these old groups or the old companies, but there will be more of these new digital companies. So let's dive a little bit more deeper into the application of the design thinking process. I brought you some methods from the process over here with some selected examples. Here I can show you some, I show you some photos or some impressions of how we work. We're using these post-its or these copper boards, and this is like an impression. And here you see the design thinking process, and let's dive deeper into the process of understanding. So I'm not sure, does anybody of you have ever heard of the persona method? Persona, okay. So you're well informed over there, or here. So a persona method is nothing else like a wanted poster, which we know from the Wild West, like Billy the Kid. Who is he? How does he look like? What characteristics does he have? And so what we do is we just imagine with our team the perfect customer. So like, what profession does he have? What function does he have in the company? What attributes, what motives, what benefits, what gains and pains does he have when he's working with a product, for instance? And so we're setting up this persona, and you see one persona here of a German or of a project, and you will have this nice table. And what's now different to the old process is, you made these personas for all your customers, and you're hanging them in your company. They're hanging in the meeting room, they're hanging on the floor, they're hanging in the stairways, because when you were innovating or generating new ideas, is the customer at the table? No, it isn't. And if the customer is hanging on the wall with a poster like that, you can ask yourself or your team, is this Ingrid Muller or Uta Witzowski, is she understanding what we'd like to do with this functionality or with this proposition of the product? So it's very important to have the customers, in the process in your company. So this is just one method. So this is to understand and the customers and to distribute this understanding in the company. Another step is the step of observing the customers, like shadowing him in the process when you're using your product. We did this at the Deutsche Telekom. We went at home and we did a questionnaire, and we looked at the customers, how they were dealing, for instance, with the Entertain system. And we received some very, very precious, valuable results. Because the results we couldn't just get by a questionnaire. We saw him how to deal with the navigation and so on and so forth, and I just can recommend to observe your customer. And there is this famous book which is called Don't Ask Mom. By the way, this is not my mom, but there's this famous book, Don't Ask Mom, where where there is a very, very good advice how you would lead a good questionnaire. And here's an example. So, for instance, in the mom test would be like that. So you would say, Mom, I have a business idea. Do you have 5 minutes? And the mom would answer, of course, my dear. So then you would ask, you like your iPad and you use it a lot? And she would answer, sure, it's great, my dear. So would you buy a cookbook app, Mom? And she would say, yes, I love cookbooks, sounds nice. Does it come with vegan recipes or something special for Christmas? Well, I have plenty of cookbooks. So in the first place, it looks good. So you think, okay, I have a good feeling, my app is all right. My mom would use it. But as we say in Germany, what would you interpret between the lines? And that's stated here. So mom would think, oh, of course, I'm proud of you, and I don't want to hurt your feelings. In the second phrase, she would say, I use it to check my email on the sofa, but nothing more with my iPad. And in the third phrase, she would say, I don't need a computer in my kitchen. It might get dirty, but hey, if my kid made it, I'll try. An app? I never bought an app. So don't you need to enter your credit card for that? Oh, let me try to change the subject. That means I just would like to recommend, if you do friends and family research, always keep this example in mind, because you will probably get a bias when you're using it. So let's go further. Here now we are entering like the ideation phase, and there is this there is a method which I like very much. It is called Scamper. Scamper is a method, and it's an abbreviation, and it's about substitute something with your product, combine, adapt, modify, or put into another use, or eliminate some functions or propositions, or even reverse the process, how the customer is dealing with your product, or your software, or your service. And I brought you some examples, for instance, what it stands for. Substitute, for instance. Substitute something in your process. As we can see over here, there's this boarding card, and it's relatively new, because I think the boarding card system, they just were released in 2011, and they substituted the nice-looking stewardesses or ladies from the airplanes behind the counter. And so the whole process, they substituted the people behind the counters. So just ask yourself the question, what can you substitute in your product or in your service? The other example is here. It's called Rafting. It's a helmet for people who are driving bicycles, and especially for women. It's coming from Sweden, and what they did is they did a combination of this scarf thing, of this hair dryer hat. I found a nice picture of a lady over there. My mom, she used these hair dryer hats from the 70s there, and so they did this combination from the hairdryer hat, the scarf, and the technology of an airbag. So what's happening with these Rafting helmet thing is, if you have an accident with a bike, they did the combination of all these three things. It rushes out of the scarf and is protecting your head. And especially women who don't want to spoil their hair with a helmet, they're using this Rafting thing, or Rafting product in Sweden. And it was released with the University of Malmö. So what can you combine to innovate your product? It's my simple question. And this example is about adaptation. So the ball pen was invented in 1888 or 1906, and so there was this woman from Mum. It's a famous deodorant company, and in the 1940s she adapted the principle of a ball pen to a roll-on deo. And this roll-on deo, I'm sure, who's using from you a roll-on deo? Huh? Yes, okay. So it's the same system as we use in the ball pen. So what can you adapt from other products and services or software to your product? So modifying your product is another example. Here we see the founder of Black River. It's a small company which is in Bavaria. And what he did is he just scaled a skateboard from this size to a tiny size of a finger. And he set up a whole new business model. So this community is now doing the same tricks with his finger skateboard on ramps, and on the table there are competitions in YouTube, and he was setting up a totally new business models by selling the spare parts for this small finger skateboard. So my question to you is, what can you modify or scaling with your product to innovate? Or here, diamonds are the girl's best friends. De Beers was a former company who was dealing with industrial diamonds. And in the 50s or in the 40s, there was this trend coming over from the United States that people are presenting a big stone or a big diamond to the fiancé. So what they did is they changed their business. They put their business into another use. And now it's the biggest diamond company of the world. And they engaged in the 40s and 50s in cut diamonds. So what can you put into another use from your company to engage in a new business model on a new business market? This is my preferred example because this is like an MVP. I'm not familiar, or I'm not sure if you're familiar with this expression. It is called minimal viable product. That means with this product, it's the Spartan Swiss Army knife, and it comes with 14 functions, and that's what you just need with a knife. So there are existing other army knives with USB stick, with lenses, stuff like that. But this is the most selling product from Victorinox in Switzerland. So what can you eliminate from your product to innovate it? And last but not least, it's these products. It's a hamburger. But what did McDonald's do? They not only invented the chain catering, but what they did is they reversed the whole process. Because now at McDonald's, usually you go in a restaurant, you're ordering a meal, and then you're paying it. But McDonald's reversed the whole process. You're paying first, and then you're getting the meal. So what can you reverse in your product? So this is the Scamper method. That's how a so-called method card would look like. We would do that with 6 or 8 persons, or with different coaches with even more persons. And now I'd like to give you just an impression about prototypes, because prototypes, when we are working on prototypes, we're using a software which is called Axure, or we're using to build up digital prototypes. For instance, with click dummies or wireframes. I'm not familiar, or I don't know if you're familiar with these processes, or even paper prototypes. That means with these prototypes, you can go to the customer and get a direct feedback without having programmed any line of code. For instance, here is an expression, or here's an impression how our customers would do a prototype to present these prototypes later to the customer. So what you can see here is like a whole bunch of different methods of the approach, how design thinking is functioning. So it's, as I said, it's more or less a framework. It's not really a method, but that's like the big variety of design thinking. And here are here are the benefits. So what you can reach or what you can obtain with design thinking is that you can view problems from a different perspective. That it allows to dive into a problem root cause, as we saw with the toothbrush. It encourages to innovative thinking in your company. It even transforms the whole company into a new culture. It ensures that final outcome meets objective and requirements, because like you're not in your company and just pulling the white rabbit out of your head, but you're doing the research with the customers, and the customer is giving the answers. And the results, they are quite effective, and it's leveraged the collective expertise with all your colleagues. And finally, it's solving a real problem with research or testing methods. So a last recommendation, because my talk is now coming to an end, be aware of this chart, because if you're doing innovation in your company, take care that you divide daily business with innovation, because daily business eats your strategy. So now I'm coming to the end of my presentation. Now let's turn from spectators into participants and go out there and innovate. And I would be glad to facilitate your innovation process. And yes, because innovation matters for your business.
Thank you very much, Jens Bothmer. That has been very inspiring, clear, it was so visible,
Okay.
your ideas. What happened there? That was it was not me. Okay. Things you'd like to know. Now, here's someone who could help you to run your business. He is really expensive if you call him, and today he is for free.
Hello. Congratulations for your presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I would like to know what are general tips or advice for someone who is starting to work with the designing thinking method?
Well, in the end of October, we had this bar camp in Frankfurt, and so there were a lot of pros there. And we asked, what would you recommend? They basically asked the same question. And they said, don't name it design thinking. Because I'm coming back to the first slide. In this VUCA world, there is this ambiguity. And in Germany, design thinking is all about aesthetics and make it beautiful. In UK or in the Americans, in the States, it's about creating something, and it has nothing to do with aesthetics. So don't call it design thinking, and use these methods. And from the beginning on, have your red line in a framework and in a process. And after each method, just describe what you would deliver. Yeah, that's my recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you. More questions? Things you'd like to know for your business?
Hi, thanks. Great speech. So I've got a question on the relation between design thinking, which is driven a lot by focused small groups in most companies, and crowdsourced innovation. So I see a lot of traction of crowdsourced innovation both in the B2C and in the B2B world. So have you made a bridge between crowdsourced innovation and design thinking already?
Well, not yet, not yet. So because it's the beginning of design thinking. I talked to Daniel Marquardt, who's in charge of running the app house in Heidelberg, for instance, and he's working for 2 or 3 years. And he said, even to transform this giant group of SAP, he said he just did 10% of the transformation. So I think it's a very cultural thing. And yes, I don't have any experience with crowdsourcing in relation to design thinking. But what you can do is you can fake a product over there, like the lean startup approach, for instance, is proposing. You're like faking a product. You look out there, who would buy it? You do the argumentation with it, and if you have 50 orders for your product, then you're right. Then you just have to make your business plan, and you're right with your assumptions. So there is a correlation with crowdsourcing, yes.
Yeah. So maybe just as an inspiration. Because you explained a lot the methodology around design thinking, which is in a flux and evolving. And I saw the same with crowdsourced innovation, and there are companies that have not only developed methodology, but also have tools like Innosabi in Munich. And it would be worth reaching out to Innosabi and connect your ideas with their methodology, because they are quite successful in Europe on driving crowdsourced innovation and get the methodology around it.
I like to, yeah. Thank you.
Things you'd like to know? Yes, please.
Just take an example like for a startup, how your process will be. You will say you will work 1 week with the person together to make their idea mature, or what's the usual process?
Well, the usual process is you have to transform your company or your team. And so they get to know these methods. They have to feel it. They have to experience it. If you were there and you're saying, okay, let's do design thinking, it won't work. So what we usually propose is just an introduction of 1 or 2 days, and so that the people can feel the flow or when the magic is happening. So we did that for several companies, and after the step of understanding, observing, and making up your point of view, people are longing to put out their ideas, for instance. Huh? So I would recommend or propose an introduction, and after that, then you would set up the whole process if it is a 1 month, a 3 month, 6 month, or 24-month process. It depends on the company.
May I ask you to join my toy again? Take out your mobile phone, go to the browser, and punch in voxr.org/expert. Then you can punch in a keyword or a sentence about what you're interested in, and it will appear on this cloud of keywords our audience has contributed throughout the day. Again, the website, voxr.org/expert. And as you contribute, the shape, some terms may become bigger, because if 5 of you say big data, this word is going to be bigger. And someone tried the system and punched in 360 rocks, and it did appear. That is something we can do parallelly. Do you have another question, or would you like to?
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? One more.
Yeah. First, thank you for your speech. I'm curious if you, next to your consultation work for other companies, if you try to start your own startups, because now you're a professional, trying out ideas, and you know how this process is working, and probably you are very enabled to set up ideas very inexpensive. So you probably are able to try many ideas. So do you have ideas, and are you trying them out, like your own startups next to your consultation?
Yeah, well, it's the shark thing. Huh? The daily business, as I said, is like preventing me to. Well, I have like a whole stack of ideas over there.
Right,
huh?
everybody of us.
Yes, exactly. So, and it's just this shark thing that you have such a lot of ideas. And yes, I founded this company, Iconstorm, where at the moment the CEO, and now I'm going out of this company because exactly it's
so you're starting
exactly. So now I'm starting again because I want to get rid of the daily business.
How old is the company?
12 years.
12 years.
12 years, and now Autentity. It's on the web, so at autentity.de, just in German, but it's not yet registered for SEO, for search engine optimization. Yes, but that's the reason why I'm quitting a good running company. So, and it still will exist in the future. And yes, I make a full machine stop and start again new.
Perfect.
We wish you all the best for your new business. Thank you very much for this very inspiring contribution we got from you today. Jens Bothmer.